It's the most South African thing ever. In fact, I believe standing in a queue at the Department of Home Affairs is in fact the great equalizer of our society. But it's happened to almost all of us. We've stood in the queue for hours waiting to be served at, example, a Department of Home Affairs, only to be told that they have no access to the records in Pretoria because a server is down because of load shedding or an IT issue. In fact, it is the South African motto is that the system is down. It's a challenge that's of course not unique to government departments, but many larger organizations that have branches and offices are located in various locations. But what if we use cloud technology to help centralize the records, the data that is needed to process many of these functions? Barry Kemp is the head of Nymbus Cloud Solutions. We're talking tech on a Tuesday. Barry, good morning. I hope you've been well.
Good morning, Lester. Yes, thank you. A bit chilly, but yes, doing well.
I hope you stay warm. Load shedding has been persistent in South Africa, causing significant disruptions for business. How do you believe cloud solutions are addressing this challenge of the system being offline, an IT issue, the link from, say, example, the Department of Home Affairs in Pretoria to get to the Barrack Street office here in Cape Town? The records are obviously kept centrally in a server in Pretoria, but if load shedding strikes, often those servers, those networks go down, which means me here in Cape Town simply can't get a renewed ID or a renewed passport or a death certificate or a birth certificate.
Yes, so the key thing with cloud solutions is it decouples the actual service that a business or a home affairs, for example, would use from an office or a head office and puts it into a location where it's secure. It gets the whole management and providing of the infrastructure gets moved away to a service provider rather than, in this case, home affairs or a business. And the business doesn't need to worry about things like power to run their servers, internet access to get to the servers, any of those things. That gets decoupled and put into a provider who can then provide those services in a very highly available way at a very relatively low cost. Everybody thinks cloud solutions are expensive, but they actually don't need to be.
Is it particularly labor intensive? And again, I harp on the example of the Department of Home Affairs or government records that many times it's paper documents, and the government is currently in the process of digitizing millions and millions of documents. But is it quite labor intensive to transfer data, which could be in hard format to a digital format and then uploading to some sort of cloud storage system?
It can be quite labor intensive because obviously you're talking about physical records, and I presume at Home Affairs there's a massive hall with rows and rows of files and filing cabinets and that sort of thing. But it's a one-time deal. Once you've got it into an IT solution, it's then available forever, obviously as long as you've got the right backup solutions and that sort of thing in place. But it's available forever, very easy to access, can get indexed quite easily, so data can be found very easily. So yes, it's intensive to start with, but it's a one-time deal.
I keep an eye on the issue of cybersecurity. Malware ransoms have been a feature at government departments here in South Africa, whether it be the Department of Justice or whether it is Transnet that have suffered malware ransom attacks. Just talk us through the concerns around the security and data protection when hard data is transferred or migrated to a cloud server. How are these concerns addressed?
So I think what's important to understand is that cloud and an on-site environment, the requirements from a security perspective are very similar. So the constructs and procedures and processes that are put in place on-site apply to the cloud. But in many cases, the cloud providers actually have more resource available to actually build secure solutions than the average business, even somebody like Home Affairs. Just as an example, Microsoft spends $1 billion a year on security in their cloud. Now, most businesses, unless they're massive, don't have the resources to do that. So in many cases, the cloud solution is actually more cost effective. But what's also critical, particularly when you talk about ransomware, is making sure that you've got a backup solution in place that's not either on-site or in the same cloud environment. So moving it into a different cloud environment, making sure it's what they call in IT circles air-gapped, which means that you can't get to it from the one side, And that's vital from a backup security perspective in case you do get ransomware, that the customer can recover quickly.
What's some of your advice for not the governmental sector, but for businesses, particularly small businesses in South Africa, facing load shedding challenges? How would you approach cloud adoption as a strategic response?
So I think the important thing is to understand what the IT business estate looks like. So what servers do you have? What users do connect to those servers? What applications do you have? And once you've got that data, then you can do a careful plan of what needs to go into the cloud and when. And it's not just the big companies that need to worry about this. Even the small businesses do. They may have a payroll server. You had, for example, Sage, for example, that would need to go into the cloud, but you need to do it in a very structured way so that you don't break the system and users can't access it. But that's where the right partner comes into it, because they've done this. Us as Nymbus Cloud Solutions, we've done this for many years. We know the ins and outs, and we can make sure that it gets done in a very an impactful way for a business. So they go to sleep one day on site and they wake up the next day potentially in the cloud.
I would love to interact with a smart business. I'd love to interact with a smart government, particularly when it's handling my details and my data. I want to have a seamless process when I approach the Department of Home Affairs. But for big entities like government departments, talk us through some of the cost of migrating that data to a cloud service to mitigate against whatever shutdowns, whether it be IT shutdowns or whether it be load shedding impacted.
So the major cost in a cloud migration like that is actually the HR, the human component, the staff that do it. That's probably the major cost. The cost of internet access in South Africa nowadays has come down dramatically. So connecting into a cloud is not the expense anymore. It's having the right people in place to do the migration, and they're obviously subject matter experts that come at a fee. But it's critical that the customer has, or even the government department has, the right people in place to do this migration without any downtime.
Barry Kemp, head of Nymbus Cloud Solutions, talking tech on What the Hack on a Tuesday, talking about utilizing cloud solutions to overcome the issues around network downtime and particularly load shedding. The motto in South Africa, it should really be on our coat of arms, is that the system is offline, often because of load shedding. 021 446 0566.